Can we, Mr. Chairman, can we just please, I'm sorry, no, my apologies. USEC Roger Tongan to please give his rejoinder to this question.
All right, quickly, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and your honors. Now, the reason why there was a 2.2, this is a continuing appropriation. So, tuloy-tuloy pa rin na dina-download namin ito sa ating mga DOH hospitals together with the LGU hospitals. Now, another reason is most of our DOH hospitals have canceled some elective or yung mga procedures nila sa hospital, and they only admitted for emergencies. And some of our clients, most especially yung mga mahirap nating mga kababayan, naka-lockdown yung mga kanilang areas, at the same time, hindi po sila nagpapa-check up. So anyway, since it's a CONAP, continuous pa rin namin na dina-download po yan until now. And at present, based on the 2.2 billion, ang naiiwan na lang po dyan is around 669 million po from the 2.2. Since we are continuously downloading this to the different DOH and LGU hospitals and to the regions po. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusek. Mr. Chairman, can we get an assurance that that money will be spent and will not lapse at the end of the year?
Yes po.
And it will be spent for the purpose, the assistance to the indigent patients po.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we will reassure the committee that this will be spent.
Okay, I'm satisfied with that for now, and maybe we'll check further down the line, Mr. Chairman. Dito naman po sa immunization and sa HFEP and sa HRH, marami ring unobligated amounts. Let's tackle them one by one, Mr. Chairman. Sa health facilities enhancement, there's another 1.8B unobligated. So I'd like to ask about that for the reason. Kasi marami ring nangangailangan mga sa probinsya, for instance, they need to upgrade their health facilities. So kung bakit hindi pa nagagastos to, since this is actually appropriations from the 2019 and 2020 budget.
Mr. Chairman, can we have USEC Lilibeth David to give the rejoinder to the question?
David, please answer right away. Secretary Elizabeth Lilibeth David, named after the Queen of England. Your Majesty. Alam na alam ni Senator Angarian, galing sa England din.
I appreciate, Mr. Chairman, you're filling in the dead air.
Yeah, try to.
Mr. Chairman, she's already there. Thank you.
Yes, may I just request po kung yung specific question, Mr. Chair?
Yes, I'll happy to repeat it, Mr. Chair, Yusek. Yung HFEP, we have a figure here of 1.8 billion out of the total allotment for fiscal year 2020 and the continuing appropriations for 2019. There is 1.8 billion which has not yet been obligated. HFEP being the health facilities enhancement. So again, what's the reason for not obligating it as we go into the 9th month of this year? And what do you intend to do with those funds, Mr. Chairman? Baka nakamute ho. Wala po kami naririnig, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you po. Mr. Chair, was that for, did you say 2019 po?
It's for both 19 and 20. So it will lapse at the end of this year if you do not spend it. So I'm wondering, anong plano nyo dyan?
And the answer
Mr. Chair, for 2019, for the amount of 3.8 billion.
Let's just combine it. Let's take it together, because if you combine fiscal year 2020, there's 1.4 billion. For 2019, there's 400 million. So pinagsama mo, that's 1.8 billion. Parehong maglalapse yun. So what's the plan? Or at least maybe the 19 has lapsed already. But yung 1.4 or 1.8, anong plano doon? Magagastos pa yun? Will it go towards the government's COVID effort? Kasi right now, kumbaga, all hands on deck dapat di ba? Lahat ng hindi nagagamit na pondo, dapat i-direct dun sa COVID effort. So, it appears to us, and maybe we might be mistaken, na medyo wala yung urgency. Pero baka naman nandyan, may plano kayo. Sabihin nyo lang sa amin para maintindihan namin.
Yes, and if I might add, Senator Angara and Mr. Chair, this was also flagged by COA. It's very clear in the audit report about
Yes.
the HFD.
The COA flagged around 11 billion, but actually there's 24 billion that's unobligated. So we'd like to get to the bottom of it. Because we don't want, if it's a systemic problem, let's tackle the system. But if it's a situational problem, then let us know how can we address it, diba? We're here to provide solutions naman. We're not here to find fault. But without understanding the problem, how can we provide solutions, Mr. Chairman?
Excuse me, Ms. Lilibeth, can you please answer the question as forthrightly as possible? You're taking
Hindi mo
from the
mahirap yung
time of
question, Mr.
Senator
Chair, di
Angara.
ba? Merong hindi nagastos na pondo. It's either 1.4B, 1.8B that will lapse at the end of the year, and it's dedicated, it has been appropriated for a particular program para tulungan po yung ating mga pampublikong hospital, pampublikong clinic. So anong plan dyan?
Yes,
You
Mr.
wanna
Chair.
answer?
Mr. Chair, these are various
Mr. Chairman,
projects
please.
in our
I'm not
different
made of wood. How
regions
many
and our
times do I have to tell you that? I'm not made of wood. It's a small matter. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, these are various projects in our various regions and in our various hospitals. And for 2020 po, we have already obligated 8.2. That's 99% po. For 2021, for this year po, we have already obligated 29%. That's 2.6 billion. And for the others po, they're still in the process of procurement in various stages, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you for the information, but it's somewhat unresponsive or not directed, Mr. Chair, kasi tinatanong nga natin yung 1.8B na nakalagay either in 2019 or 2020 budget. So can I just get, if hindi masagot at this moment, can I just get very precise details in the future? I would rather, I'd appreciate a more precise answer that was the product of careful study rather than an imprecise answer, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we reassure that as soon as we get the particulars of this particular item, we will send it by hopefully within the day, Mr. Chairman, to the court.
Thank you.
No.
Secretary.
Excuse me.
Salamat, Mr. Chairman.
You will
I'll
send,
jump now to the National
10 minutes.
Immunization Program, which
you will
Senator
send it
Hontiveros
in
asked
10
about.
minutes. I'm sorry, Senator Sani. I mean, she's just looking. The answer is, the question is very clear. I don't want you to spend the whole day again, then we'll call for wait another day for another meeting. Spend the next half an hour, if you like, to look for the answer to the question. Then come back. I will call you back and let you come in right away. Is that all right, Senator Angara?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. You have to push the envelope.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd now like to return to the National Immunization Program. There was a total of 8.2 billion allotted by Congress in both 2020 and 2019 for the National Immunization Program. And tinanong po yan ni Senator Risa, bakit hindi nagastos yung 4.2 approximately billion dyan? And ang sagot ng Secretary, and he also was assisted by Secretary Galvez later and Yusek Hoven, was that the loan agreements were not entered into. So I'm saying, are you saying this 4 billion was on top of the 84 billion appropriation that we put in the 2021 budget, meaning you realign funds from the 2020 budget under the National Immunization Program at i-realign nyo to purchase vaccines? Kasi when the 2020 budget was being debated, wala pa yung issue ng COVID vaccines, di ba? Pumasok lang yan when we debated the 2021. So I'm just curious ano nangyari yun? Yung sagot, yung tanong ni Senator Risa is an item that belongs to the 2020 and 2019 budget. Pero yung sagot is an item that belongs to the 2021 budget. So I'm just curious about that that answer. Kasi you talked about contracts which were not perfected before the end of the year, etc. Pero when the 2020 budget was made, I assumed it was for the regular immunization. So you're talking about yung tigdas, yung measles, etc., which is the program under the law authored by Senator Pia, yung compulsory immunization, di ba? So I'm just curious, could you clarify that, Secretary?
Mr. Chairman, I do not recall any repurposing of the budget meant for the national immunization program towards the vaccines for COVID. But anyway, I'm looking into the particulars again with my apologies, Mr. Chairman. I'll get into this. I'm just getting the team to dig up all of these figures and to give a clearer picture of this.
Sige po, maybe I can help refresh, Mr. Chairman. In the 2020 budget for the National Immunization Program, the DOH has an item of 7.5 billion. Dito po, 43.7% lang ang naobliga, meaning nakontrata o nagamit, which is 3.3. 43.7% representing 3.3 billion. So yun yung tinanong ni Senator Risa, bakit anong nangyari doon sa 4.2 billion na unobligated? At ang sagot ninyo, hindi kami nakakontrata ng COVID vaccines. So first of all, that money was not intended by Congress for COVID vaccines. Pero if you took a shortcut and you declared savings and you said it's for COVID vaccines, that's okay for us because sa amin, Senator Drilon is listening. Importante na madagdagan nga yung pera para sa COVID vaccination. But we just want to understand ano ba yung aksyon ng gobyerno dito? Sadya ba yun na hindi ginastos para sa ibang bakuna para madala sa COVID vaccines? So kasi nag-appropriate kami sa Bayanihan 2 at saka sa 2021 budget ng a total of 84 billion. So we're wondering kung may 4.2 pa dito, di dapat may 88 billion ho tayo, di ba? Kasi may 4 billion from 2020, tapos 2021, meron 74 billion, tapos Bayanihan 2, may 10 billion. So may dagdag na 4 billion. Is that an accurate portrayal? Could you may not, maybe you can choose not to answer it now when you want to tell us, but syempre may effect din yun sa immunization program ng gobyerno. If children are not getting their immune shots, they may not get COVID, but they may get other sicknesses. Baka may other outbreaks ho tayo sa probinsya. And again, I realize it's a pandemic, so baka mahirap magbakuna, kaya that's why you were not able to vaccinate or use up your vaccination budget, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, can we just get a response, at least initially?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I do recall is that the national immunization program continued. We did not stop it because we realized the importance of this. This is a public health policy that we cannot afford to stop. But although, of course, there was great difficulty. But let me just, Mr. Chairman, request that you recognize USEC Rosette Vergere, under which program is lodged. USEC Rosette Vergere, please. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, may she be recognized, please? Mr. Chairman.
Yes, yes, please.
USEC Vergere, please.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon to all of the honorable senators. Mr. Chair, the 4.2 billion which was allocated for our national immunization program in 2020, our supposed procurement was for the PCV vaccines, the pneumococcal conjugate vaccines. But because this went through the Health Technology Assessment Council deliberations and evaluation, so we had to wait for the results. And when the results were out, it was recommended that the multi-dose vials would be procured instead of the single-dose vial. So this pneumonial PCV vaccines initially was 4.2 billion as allocated or proposed plan. But because of this multi-dose vialing, it went down to 3.2 billion. And then the others were spent for this vaccination and other COVID-19 response for the country.
Mr. Chair, I'm a little confused because you've cited some numbers. Is that you're saying the unobligated amount has already been obligated, or you're referring to the 3 billion that you obligated outside of the 4 billion? Because your total budget is 7.5 billion for 2020.
Mr. Chair, if I may respond. Yes,
Mr. Chairman, I may allow you to respond.
Mr. Chairman, if I may respond, sir. Thank you po.
Ako pa sinasabi yan eh. We're not made of wood, you know.
I'm sorry po, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So, yes, sir. So, we have, as I've said, the 4.2 billion was initially planned for the PCV vaccines, but based on the Health Technology Assessment Council's evaluation and recommendation that
You don't have to repeat that part, Yusek.
yes,
That's very deep. Those are details which are not pertinent. The question is, na-obligate na ba yung 4.2 billion? Yun ang tanong. So are you saying, because you saying it's been multi-vax, vial, whatever the technical jargon is, you're saying that 4.2 has been obligated, 3.2 has been obligated. Is that what you're saying?
yes, Mr. Chairman and Senator Angara, the money has been obligated already.
When was the date of obligation? Because your website says as of a certain date you had 24 billion of unobligated amounts. So I'm curious, when was it obligated?
Mr. Chairman and Senator Angara, it became a CONAP of 2020, this money, so we were able to obligate this year, sir.
Now, what's the exact date of entering into the contract or obligation?
Um,
What month?
if I
You don't have to
may,
give me the date. Doesn't have to tell me if it's a Monday or a Thursday, but please give me the month at least.
yes, Mr. Chairman and Senator, if I can just get the documents for a while.
Okay, sige. Now you can just submit it to us, no? Because I'm just wondering why your website says there's 24 billion in obligated, and you're telling me it's already been obligated. Baka you just need to update your website. It's as simple as that.
Excuse me, Senator Angara. Well,
Yes,
you're
Your Honor.
looking for it, a very quick interception, if you will.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman.
Let me just ask Secretary Duque. Sanofi paid you 1.4 plus billion pesos for the remaining balance of the drug that was not, the vaccine that was not utilized. Is that correct?
I think it was about 1 billion 100 plus, Your Honor. But
Whatever. It's over a billion.
yes, sir. Mga 1
Where
billion
did it
100
go?
plus remitted to the Bureau of Treasury.
So you have extra money there, and you might want to be able to use that to pay all your obligations. And the other thing is, the Court of Appeals decision ordered you guys to because the contractors of that supposed elementary school or public school health centers that will be used by the public also were never finished, and the Court of Appeals in a decision, Department of Health versus J. Bros Construction Corporation, in joint agreement with Fujian Songma Construction Engineering Company, it is represented by its authorized managing officer Balota. It was shown that only 270 barangay health stations were completed out of the 3,100 units for barangay health stations phase 1 of the Department of Health, with a total contract price of 4,456,592,239 pesos and 41 centavos. The court directed the private contractor to return the mobilization fee already received in the amount of 668 million. Nangangapa tayo ng pera. Naibalik na ba yan? Hindi na nga nagawa. Nabalik ba yung pera?
Mr. Chairman, can we have Assistant Secretary Cha Grande, who has been into this from the very start?
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
Cha Grande,
Grande.
please give me a grande answer.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and to all the members of the Senate. The case, which was decided by the Court of Appeals, Mr. Chair, is already pending before the Supreme Court. JPROS Corporation, a joint venture of Zongma Corporation, filed their appeal on that decision of the Court of Appeals. And further, Mr. Chair, as to the amount of money, um, yun pong natitira po na pera po ay naibalik po sa Bureau of Treasury. Yung una pong covered po ng letters of credit for phase 1 ay request po ng Department of Health to Land Bank na ibalik po. So with that po, yung phase 2
Point I
naman
wish to
po,
make is binibigyan kayo ng pera ng government, halimbawa yung sa National Immunization Program, ginamit bigla sa Sanofi na nawala doon sa listahan ng mga identified for immunization. Tapos tinatanong ko lang kung nabalik, sayang yan. Nangangailangan tayo ng pera, pati ito. Galing naman ito doon sa retirement fund ng mga employees, kinuha at ngayon ay pinabalik sa inyo. Parang nagkakamali ata kayo palagi sa paggastos. Dapat maingat kayo. That's the only point I want to make. Thank you. Importante yan because sayang ang pera, sayang ang oras. Go ahead, please. Are you ready now, Ms. to answer?
yes sir, to continue, Mr. Chair, yung pong phase 2 po ay
Mr. Chairman,
naibalik
please,
na rin.
Mr. Chairman.
Ay, sorry.
Sorry, it's a little matter, but I really find it offensive. Thank you. Let me get back to. Are you ready to answer already the questions? Ms. Bergeri, di ba ikaw tinatanong doon?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This was the funds were obligated last April of 2021, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I continue, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Angara, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yusek, thank you for that information. So of the 4.2 unobligated, you're saying 3.2 was obligated. How about the remaining 1 billion, Yusek?
Mr. Chairman, the remaining 1 billion was allocated for warehousing, hauling, and brokerage for 88 million plus. For the augmentation support to selected regional offices for our MROPV, the oral polio vaccine supplemental immunization activity at 361 million. And then we also were able to procure COVID-19 PPEs and vaccine ancillaries at 428 million. Also, the fund transfer to DFA for the vaccination of Filipino children in alternative learning centers in Sabah. That's about 14.8 million. So these were all obligated na po, sir, and deliveries for these PCV vaccines are ongoing po.
So magkano dun sa 1 billion ang na-obligate or naiwan? Is it fully obligated? The 1 billion that you
fully-
saved when you bought the multi-vial vaccines.
Yes, sir, fully obligated na po, sir.
Okay. How about the 10 billion that you've been given under the 2021 National Immunization Program? 2.5 billion of which is for COVID vaccines. Ano na ang utilization nun, ma'am?
Mr. Chairman and Senator Angara, if you can give us a minute just for us to get the documents, sir.
Yeah, sure. Can I just go to another topic while someone is getting that, Mr. Chairman? If that's all right. Is that all right, Yusek, that you will go to another matter while someone is getting the data?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, opo.
Okay. I'll just ask about the Bayanihan Funds. We were given the data that there's 6 billion unutilized by the DOH from Bayanihan 1 and 2. And the Bayanihan 1, there's a 1 billion item that was reverted or lapsed. So it was returned to the Treasury. And there is 5 billion unobligated for Bayanihan 2. Could you tell us what items were unobligated? Particularly, what is that 1 billion that lapsed and was given back to the Treasury? And what is the 5 billion that lapsed or that was unobligated under Bayanihan 2, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, may I respectfully request that Director Rowena Laura of Finance Administration to be recognized. Thank you, sir.
Gentleman concerned is recognized, please.
Thank you. Director Laura, please.
Director Laura, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon po, Your Honors. Regarding po sa unobligated po which have lapsed, if I'm correct, sir. Yun po ba yung tanong?
Andun lang sa Bayanihan 1 and 2 po, yung Mr. Chairman, yung 1 billion ng Bayanihan 1, what was that intended for and why was it not spent?
Okay.
Given that Bayanihan 1 was emergency measure. Tapos itong 5 billion naman sa ilalim ng Bayanihan 2. Bakit hindi rin nagastos yon, Mr. Chairman?
Okay, sir. Regarding po muna dun sa 1 billion na natira under the Bayanihan 1, it is exactly 976 million, which we considered as savings na po from procurement of test kits, and other laboratory commodities po in the amount of 480 million. And then we have also savings from the procurement of capital outlay for equipment and rehab of facilities in a amount of around 130 million. While the remaining balance po na 366 million po is allocated and downloaded to operating units for HRH emergency hiring. However, at that time, there were limitations in the number of applicants, of course, due to the fear of the pandemic. Yung 5.1,
Mr.
Sir.
Chairman, medyo mabilis yung figures, no? Can you tell us again, what is that item about HRH? 300 million to HRH hiring?
366 million, sir, excess po siya ng mga dinownload namin sa iba't ibang operating units, sir. Especially regional office and hospitals for,
Oh, you're saying it's a savings from the HRH program.
yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir.
For what year?
2020, sir. Under the Bayanihan 1 and partly Bayanihan 2, sir.
Okay, kasi meron din akong datos dito na meron kayong unobligated for HRH or Human Resources for Health Deployment, meaning hiring of nurses, benefits
yes.
of nurses and doctors,
Yes, sir.
etc. Meron kayong unobligated of 1 billion. So, bukod pa dun sa unobligated nyo sa Bayanihan 1, meron pa kayong 1 billion na hindi nyo na-obliga for HRH. Alam naman natin na umaangal yung ating mga nurses that they are not getting their benefits, hindi nila nakukuha. Umaangal sila na bakit ang starting salary lang nila is lower than what is statutorily provided, di ba? Kasi if I'm not mistaken, ipasok ko na po dito, Mr. Chairman, yung sinasabi ng mga nurse, bakit sila kino-contractual at ang binibigay na salary is salary grade 11, 23,000 lang. Eh ang nasa batas is salary grade 15 or 33,000. Hindi ba pwedeng gamitin doon yung pera na gawing, first of all, bakit hindi sila napa-permanent, Mr. Chairman?
Kung pangalawang tanong niyo po regarding sa HRH deployment, I think this is a regular program of the DOH. Yun po yung may line item po tayo. Tama po kayo. Nurses and doctors deployment program po ito. I think the better person to ask regarding this program po is the director for the HHRDB. But if I can proceed with the next
Parang nahihilo na kami sa kakapasa. Parang nanonood kami ng basketball. Pasa ng bola, Mr. Chairman. we are getting, it's like watching a basketball or a tennis game. They're hitting the ball palaging back and forth lagi. So,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I may augment the statement of Senator Angara, kanina ka pa po, parang traffic policeman lang ito kausap natin. Pasa dito, pasa doon. We cannot get direct answers from the
but
Secretary.
anyway, to try to get to the bottom of it, Your Honor, Minority Leader and Mr. Chairman, perhaps we can direct it to that person. But sana may isang repository of information tayo, di ba? Kasi ano naman, that's part of accountability, di ba? May pondo ko binigay sa inyo. Alam niyo dapat saan ginamit.
Saka pag naghingi kayo ng budget, alam niyo talaga kung saan niyo dadalhin. Hindi niyo inaasa. Pag hindi niyo alam kung saan dadalhin, talaga mawawala yan.
So who is the
Mr. Chairman,
person,
the finance,
Yusek, that you wanted to be recognized, Secretary
Yes,
Duque?
who has to be
Who is the
recognized?
person in charge?
we have USEC Leopoldo Bong Vega or Director Rowena Laura.
Secretary, right?
Yes, Undersecretary.
They are in charge
Yeah.
of the HRH program, Mr. Secretary Duque, Mr. Chairman.
It's
Mr. Vega?
under them, the admin and finance management. Can we have them recognize, Your Honor, respectfully?
Who do you want me to recognize? Vega first.
Yes, Leopoldo Bong Vega, Your Honor.
So you can,
Before Mr. Vega, who do you want recognized?
Leopoldo Bong Vega, USEC Bong Vega, Your
That's what
Honor.
I said. Mr. Yusek Bong Vega is recognized. Leopoldo Vega.
balance.
Thank you.
Your Honors, Mr. Chairman, with respect to the query on the HRH, our office specifically for the augmentation of the emergency hiring for Bayanihan 1 and 2, sir. And for the HRH, as mentioned by Senator Angara, which means that the Plantalia positions and the contractual positions that we have in the Department of Health, that is under HHRB, sir. And that's under USEC
Villaverde.
Villaverde, sir.
Dito ba si Yusek Villaverde?
I'm sorry.
You know, in basketball, it's very good to share the ball, ano? Maganda yun. That is commendable pag basketball ito. Nagpapasahan tayo, pero pag
Yusek,
accountability,
good to pass it
medyo
on this end.
mahirap
Sino
yata
pinasa-
sundan, Mr. Chairman.
Kanina niyo pinasa ang sagot? Yusek Villaverde or something?
Yeah, it was I'm just wondering, I'm just trying to make sense, Mr. Chairman. Meron tayong unobligated amounts for health health resources or human resources sa health, meaning hiring, salaries, etc. And yet, maraming nagrereklamo na why do they not get the entry level under the Nursing Act na salary grade 15? Bakit contractual lang sila? And I was told that the DOH has 13,700 contractuals, Your Honor, outside of those in the LGUs. No? Can I get a comment on that, Mr. Chairman?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, yung mga contractors natin, we really would want to fill up our Plantalia positions. But there are limitations. For example, the qualification standards are the limitations. No? Kaya they have to wait until they become qualified based on civil service rules and regulations. And so why not? I mean, we would like them immediately occupying Plantalia positions for security of tenure and the full range of benefits entitlement. But yun na nga po, ay titingnan ko lang kung itong 13.5 million Plantalia positions, kung ito po ba ay 13 unfilled, 13,428, which is 17%. Malaki-laki po ito of 80,308 total number of positions. So, yung ating total number of job order naman as 23,301 and 22% of the total 103,609 of our job orders. So, yan po ang breakdown. But we certainly support the position that the Plantalia positions ought to be filled up as soon as possible. But again, there are limitations.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me,
how
Senator
many
Angara.
vacant Plantalia positions are there in the DOH, Mr.
Senator
Chairman?
Angara, just to follow your lead, no? Apropos to that, sinabi nila last week, and I can see Senator Ontiveros nodding, I'm betting the other senators will nod about this. You said, the DBM said, na dumaan na yung salary standard na yan, grade, sa executive secretary, it's already been approved, and that, 3 days ago, you would have reported to the Senate na okay yan. Ano ba talaga ang status?
Your Honor, tama po kayo, yung budget circular lumabas lang nitong August 25. So ito po yung modification of nurse positions dahil ito po ang appeal ng mga association ng nurses na ang kanila pong nurse 1 based on jurisprudence, salary grade 15. Yung nurse 2 naman, ginawa din nilang SG15 na sabi namin hindi naman pwede yun kasi that is a relative demotion. Kasi nurse 2 ka, bakit SG15 pa ibibigay sa'yo? Dapat yung susunod. So pinaglaban po namin ito with the Office of the President and eventually the OP approved this and gave the directive to the DBM to ensure that there will be this amendment to the positions plus the budgetary support. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So what is it now? Are they going to get it or not?
Yeah, they're going to get it. That is for sure, based on the budget circular, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so that has been cleared, no?
Mr. Chairman,
It is.
just to be logical about things, ang sinabi ni Secretary Duque, kaya nila hindi napupuno yung permanent positions is because there are civil service requirements. And then he follows up by saying that okay na dahil dumaan na sa OP and they will get their full position. But if there are civil service requirements to be overcome, they will not get it based on his answer, Mr. Chairman. Hindi ba logical yun?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, there is a screening process, Mr. Chairman. So
Can
the
I'd like to drill down on this point, Mr. Chairman, if I may be allowed, Secretary Duque. How many vacant Plantalia positions are there in the DOH?
right now, Your Honor, we have total number of positions 80,308, and unfilled is 13,428, representing 17%, Your Honor.
30,000.
Yes, these are all over, no? The central office, including Food and Drug Administration and the Bureau of Quarantine, the Centers for Health Development, 16 of them, the various hospitals, and also the treatment and rehabilitation center. So they're spread out, Your Honor, over different offices and different facilities. Thank you, Your Honor.
How many applicants do you have for these positions, Mr. Chairman?
I would like to ask can we just submit to you the granular data as
Yes,
to the
okay.
positions, Mr. Chair?
With the broken
Mr.
down,
Chairman.
a breakdown of the positions, Mr. Chairman, and an indication based on the answer of Secretary Duque, how many are prevented of the applicants are prevented by civil service rules from being made permanent, di ba? Kasi yun ang concern natin eh. There are 13,700 contractuals and 30,000 vacant positions. Baka naman there is a way to speed up the filling of these positions. Kasi ang report is nag-aalisa na yung ating mga health professionals eh.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Lacson, Mr. Chair, is raising his hand.
Yes, with the permission of Senator Angara, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, certainly.
Yes, so this is as I've been monitoring the questions and answers. This is not a question of funding, but a question of hiring. Is that correct?
Not really, because they're supposed to correct a bad state of affairs that dinemote pa yung mga nurses at tagal-tagal na binigay na nila tapos binabawi.
No,
Yung
my
sinasabi naman ni
question.
Senator Angara, iba yun. There are so many plantillas available and they should have the money. And now sinasabi nila, pero you cannot do that without the civil service giving you the imprimatur.
Exactly my question, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to
Yes.
be clarified. If this is not a question of funding, but hiring.
Well, whichever way you put it.
There's no problem with funding.
No,
Yeah.
no problem with the funding. I think this budget circular is clear that the funding is available, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman. So it's hiring.
So it behooves the department to fast track the hiring process because
yes,
wala namang problema sa funding.
Opo, we are doing that, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman. We are
Thank you.
really fast tracking it given the pandemic circumstances. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lacson. I just want to
Senator
follow.
Pia, Mr. Chairman is
Bear
raising
down
a
on
hand.
that. Let me bear down on that because a certain ASEC, Kim Robert De Leon, last Monday when we were having this hearing, said that it was already cleared and that you were going to have a consultation and that by this week that should be settled already. So para kay mga Indian giver eh. You say something tapos hindi gagawin tapos may dahilan na hindi magagawa. Eh talaga kaya nagagalit ang mga tao. You know, you should look at the text messages I get from the nurses. Sinasabi lang nila yun pero hindi nangyayari. So what is it now? Are you going to finally close the door on this one?
Yeah, sir. After that meeting with ASEC Kim, kaya nga itong August 25 lang po, ay inilabas na nila itong budget circular. And this is only for the nurses, not for the other cadres of healthcare workers. Yun lang po, sir. Thank you.
So meron na kayong rason d'etat, batas, pero pa kayong funding. Okay na yan?
Yes, sir. Exactly, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to make a quick intervention on this topic.
Yes, yeah. Go ahead, Senator Cayetano. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank our colleagues, because all of these questions, which many remain unanswered, will really help me with the budget of health, which I will defend. So thank you for the heads up. And I hope DOH will comply with the answers, whether now or later, because we'll still face the same questions in the budget hearings. But the point I wanted to make in this intervention is about the condition, the state of the nurses. I have yet to hear, I may have missed it, but in the LEDAC earlier today, I mentioned the amendment of the Nursing Act. This to me is very important in terms of addressing the shortage of health workers we have. And because this will elevate nurses to nurse practitioners or doctor's assistants, similar to the US. I haven't heard. I'm not the chair of the Committee on Health, so I do not know if you have discussed this with the Committee on Health in terms of priorities. But I think this is important in the discussion because it will
This has been incorporated in our human resource for health master plan. Meron po yan yung career pathway po nila na makatulong sa kanila at what level of their professional growth. They can be put to maximum use or provide the services needed, especially in circumstances like what we have today. So let me just look into this again, but the specifics right now, my apologies, I don't have the specifics, Mr. Chairman, but I'll look into it, Mr. Chairman.
just for clarity, Mr. Secretary, and to the committee, it can't be done without an amendment of the law. That career path ends with the current Nursing Act. So unless you push for that amendment of the Nursing Act, they have no power to. We have no power to give them an advancement in their career. That's why I'm asking if this is part of your priorities. Anyway, you can answer, as you said, you look into it, so that will suffice for now. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator
Angara?
Pia. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask anyone from the DOH, what is the state of our private hospitals? Are they in a good state at the moment in terms of are they adequately manned? Are they performing as they should be in terms of finances?
Mr. Chairman, if I may be allowed, the hospitals differ in many respects. Maybe after my statement, I could refer this to Yusek Bong Vega, who heads the One Hospital Command Center. But yes, it really depends on the level of the hospitals and their location. Ano po. And by and large, the compensation asymmetry or inequality is a very serious issue that needs attention. I don't know if I'm sure by if there's a legislative fiat to accommodate to laws to address this. Yung healthcare worker ng private sector, talagang they pale in comparison with the public sector. And that's why, in fact, DOLE Secretary Benyo has been adamant about equalizing the compensation structure among healthcare workers in the public and private hospitals. So PhilHealth, of course, we cannot discuss this without the PhilHealth front and center. And but for now, let me just ask USEC Undersecretary Bong Vega to please please.
Senator Angara, you have 13 seconds to go. And the ball is in your
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll just put this out there for anyone to follow up on. What I wanted to drive at is the situation I've been hearing in private hospitals is quite dire. Nursing services are only at 30 to 50% of their usual nursing manpower. This was brought out in a Senate committee hearing last May. And the arrears from PhilHealth are over a year. and total in the tens or 20s of billions. So ang tanong ko na lang siguro to any of our health officials is anong plano nila dito? Are we happy with this state of affairs to continue? Are we not moving towards improving this situation, Mr. Chairman? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, certainly moving forward, we would support programs or whatever. We really certainly no doubt about the need to uplift the.
Asking for your support, Secretary, Mr. Chairman. I'm
do that,
asking if
sir.
you have any ideas on how to solve this.
Yun na nga po, sir, yung funding issue for the compensation is one. And then number two, the PhilHealth continues to innovate payment or reimbursement mechanisms. Right now, they have the the debit credit payment mechanism, which is supposed to accelerate the payment of claims covering a certain period, but ostensibly mukhang hindi happy yung ating pong mga private hospital stakeholders. So we need to continue to look at areas to address this nagging issue. There are figures being bandied around na 80 billion daw yung utang ng PhilHealth. But PhilHealth says it's much, much lower than that, parang asa 12 or 14 billion. Maybe President Geran can supplement my answers, Mr. Chairman. President Geran of PhilHealth, sir. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Giran, please answer.
Thank you.
Very fast,
Mr.
please.
Chairman. Good afternoon po. At saka sa mga equally honorable senators po. Sa ngayon po, ang utang po natin sa mga hospitals, in process ito, nasa libro natin po ay is in process is 21.1 billion po. This is a statement as of August 24, 2021 po. And of course, nabanggit na po ng ating kagalang-galang na sekretary na meron tayong fast tracking ng pagbayad natin sa ating partners. No? Yan ay mga HCIs. Ito, pinapatuloy po natin itong tinatawag natin na DCPM, Debit Credit Payment Method or mechanism. And base sa sa aking mga kasamaan dito is mga aabot po ito ng 100% ito is 17 millions, no? 17 billion rather. So kung 17 billion against 21, something like 4 billion na lang ang kulang. Para kung mayaman, no? 4 billion na lang ang kulang. And ano naman po, meron na tayong DCPM nung una, 60% na po na-release natin po. At saka yung meron pa tayong 40% na karagdagan na pagre-release. Kaya lang, ang ginagawa natin ngayon ay yung what we call this reconciliation para yung kabuuhan na 100% na unang 60% ay ma-release na. And dito rin po sa expanded, no? Expanded DCPM is from April 8 this year up to August 9, 2021. Itong sinasabi ko na mga something like 17 billion po. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm not going to ask any new question because my time is up. But we have a hanging question, Mr. Chairman, to the DOH regarding the utilization of the 2021 National Immunization Program and the HRH.
Secretary Virginia, are you ready to answer that already?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Senator Angara. Yes, sir. For our 2021 National Immunization Program budget, we were already able to obligate 8.2 billion out of this 10 billion. And we are just awaiting for the notice to proceed for the PCV vaccines of about 2.2 billion pesos. And then we have ongoing procurement process for the human papilloma virus vaccine for 58 million, and the duties and taxes for our routine vaccines at 46 million, which comprises about 2.3 billion, which will be obligated in the next coming weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How about the HRH?
Secretary Laura? Asek Laura? Is it Asek Laura? No. You're on kuan. You're nakamute ka.
Mr. Chairman, it is Director Pretchel Tolentino who will answer that specific question. Pretchel Tolentino, sir. Thank you, sir.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon po, Mr. Chair. Regarding po the HRS deployment funds, these are all regular funds and not from the Bayanihan Funds. Yes, we have unutilized funds, but these are from CONA from 2019 to 2020. And last Tuesday po, we already submitted all our unutilized funds to AFNP so that they can utilize this po to pay for the remaining benefits of our health workers po.
Okay, can I just ask for the 2021 utilization of HRH,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, so we don't delay the hearing?
Somebody's got your phone, your machine on, and you're disturbing the proceedings. Go ahead, Senator Angara.
Hingin ko na lang yung datos for the 2021 programs of DOH, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Do you have the answer?
We'll just provide it as soon as we get it today, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Okay. The chairman would like to call on Senator Senator Lacson. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before Senator Angara leaves, because there is yet an unresolved issue that we raised earlier, and this is regarding the 5 billion unutilized or unobligated
For Bayanihan, yes.
budget under Bayanihan 2.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's referring to the 5.58 billion ayuda to the jeepney or the public utility.
I think this is the
vehicle
DOH. I
drivers.
was told it was under the DOH budget,
Yes,
Your Honor.
I know.
Kung ayuda yun, baka under DSWD.
No.
I'm not 100% sure, but
Yeah, probably under the. So that's another 5 billion.
baka hong iba pa yun.
Okay. Anyway, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to address my questions to Attorney Lau, if I may.
Yes, please. Yusek Lau, are you there? Attorney Lau?
Present, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Good.
The procurement of items that the PSDBM and DOH classified as common use supplies, which we do not agree, of course, based on the March 2020 GPPB resolution list that doesn't include face shields and other already procured items in the list of items described as CSEs. While Senator Drilon already addressed some of my questions in his earlier manifestation regarding the highly questionable procurements, not to mention the qualifications and wherewithal of at least 2 contractors that supplied those items, meaning face masks and face shields. I would like to hear, for record purposes, the explanation of former PSDB MOIC Lau, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. During the time when we procured it initially, we conducted an initial request for quotation and initial bidding.
Before you answer, I'm sorry, no. Before you answer,
sorry.
do you confirm the figures presented by Senator Drilon, particularly on Palmary and Philippine Blue Cross Biotech?
I cannot.
Those are
confirm-
mind-boggling figures.
I cannot confirm the total, Mr. Chairman, but I think that is if it is based on record. I don't have records with me, Mr. Chairman.
I would welcome any intervention from Senator Drilon, Mr. Chairman, just to validate the answers of Attorney Lau, because
Yes.
as it appears, Attorney Lau does not know the figures or does not agree with the figures presented by Senator Drilon.
That's what I was asking him. Aliro yon. Say, go ahead, Senator Drilon, please.
Yes, these are based, we did not invent these figures. These are based from COA reports and from DBM reports itself. So we are certain that there was an enumeration of the suppliers, and in fact, Senator Hontiveros has this list, which she also brought up, and there we can see the contracts that and supplies that were purchased from specific suppliers, and we note the biggest supplier was Pharma.
Palmarie
Yes,
and
we're certain
and Blue Cross.
and we stand by those figures that came from government reports.
I said mind-boggling, Mr. Chairman, Senator Rilon, and I'd like to convey this to Attorney Lau. Kasi kung 500 plus million lang yung capitalization and then naka-enter ng contract na ang halaga
500,000, Senator Ping, 500,000 at 500 million.
Yeah, 500,000 and yet naka-enter ng contract na 1.1 plus billion. So Attorney Lau, can you confirm that?
I confirm that if it is based on record, then I will confirm that that is the amount that it was awarded, Mr. Chair, or the contracts that they were able to garner.
Yeah, my question is, what kind of due diligence did you undertake on Palmarie and Philippine Blue Cross Biotech?
During that time, Mr. Chair, we have a list of the requirements. I think there's a list in our website, and I think the employees from PSDBM can actually answer that because...
No, but you should know that because you were the OIC. Ang tinatanong ko, anong klaseng due diligence ang ginawa nyo? Kasi kung ina-admit mo na tama yung figures na pinresent ni Senator Drilon, medyo nakakapagtaka yung 500,000 pesos yung capitalization. Makakakuha ng kontrata way beyond yung kanilang wherewithal or capacity to procure or to buy those items para i-supply sa PSDBM.
One with the Blue Cross, Mr. Chair, this is a local company. So I believe it is based on their field jobs registration, mayor's permit. I think if they have also FDA, DTI, I think those are the standard requirements.
Let's answer the question. The question is, can, with their limited capital, handle a billion peso contract? Basically, that's your observation.
Mr. Chair, initially they were not awarded. I think gradual kasi yung award. So if they finish the first contract, meron na po silang track record, and that's the basis for their continuing contracts that they can get.
So yung 500,000 corporation, marami ng kontrata.
Hindi po. Initially medyo magkano ba yung award nito?
Yes, Senator Drilon.
Yes. With the permission of Senator Ping, I would like to record some findings that we have on Pharmalie. We requested the chairman to issue a subpoena to 3 officers of Pharmalie. The chief executive officer, Huang Chu Yin, who is alleged to be the CEO, with address at Unit 14A, 1 McKinley Place. The next one is a certain Mohit Bargani, who is said to be the treasurer and corporate secretary, again with address at 14A, Unit 14A, 1 McKinley Place. And a certain Twinkle Dargani, who is the president with address at Gold Hill Tower Unit 903, Unit 903, 5 Annapolis Street, Green Hills in San Juan. We got these addresses, Mr. Chairman and Senator Ping, from the GIS, the General Information Sheet, filed with the SEC, filed on June 29, 2020. The subpoenas on these 3 officers, Mr. Lau, was not served for the following reasons. The addresses of Huang Chi Yen, who is the CEO, and Mohit Dargani stated in the 2020 General Information Sheet are the same, 14A, 1 McKinley. Upon our attempt to serve the subpoena, the guard in the condominium said, we quote, the addresses Huang Chi Yen and Mohit Dargami, nawala ako pa. Are non-existent. In other words, their GIS, in their GIS, they stated fake addresses, and the addresses of Wang Chiyu and Mohit Dargani, they are no longer there. And hold on. And in other words, they even stated fake addresses in their GIS. A simple diligence would have shown that these are fake addresses. And then in the other one, the address was 3 years ago, was no longer valid. In other words, the tenant left. So what kind of diligence did you exercise with this, with an award of 8.6 billion? The addresses are fake, and the president's address at Twinkle Dargani, according to the receptionist of Gold Hill Tower, Miss Gargani, left the unit 3 months ago. So mukhang nawala na ito after getting 8.6 billion. This corporation disappeared.
Thank you, Senator Dillon. That's exactly my point why I asked what kind of due diligence. Kasi it's either walang due diligence for reason of collusion, or tinamad sila mag-due diligence, or they're sloppy, which I don't want to believe, because being the PSDBM, a trained and experienced procuring entity of the government. In fact, ang PSDBM, ang daming procurement na ginagawa sila sa common use supplies. And yet, kung walang ganyan due diligence kasi fake yung mga address, I wonder how they were able to award the procurement of billions of pesos of equipment or items. How about the Philippine Blue Cross Biotech? Do you have the list of incorporators, Attorney Lau, or Senator Dillon, if Attorney Lau cannot answer?
Mr. Chair, I think it is correct, Mr. Chair. We, based on the documents we have, I think the only documents are the general information sheet is not part of the requirements, Mr. Chair. I apologize, but that is how it was.
It's amazing.
So there was insufficient due diligence, and yet you awarded to those two firms billions of pesos worth of supplies.
Yes, Mr. Chair, because during that time, they were the ones who gave it the cheapest and the ones who had available.
No, that's not my question. Hindi lang yung cheapest. Ang tanong ko, dapat may due diligence, hindi ba?
Yes, I concur with that, Mr. Chair. I apologize.
And besides, yung face shields, hindi nga kasama doon sa list, doon sa GPPB resolution, as we pointed out during the last hearing.
I think it's covered in the PPE, Mr. Chair, under the Mr. Chairman, under the footnotes. There's the one that listed PPE shall include, and one of those is the face shield, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, pero bakit napakamahal? You know, in your earlier media interviews, I read that the reasons that you gave bakit mataas yung presyo kasi issue ng supply and demand, di ba? Low supply, high demand. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair. When we conducted our procurement during that time, that was actually the cheapest because the first procurement session that we made.
No. Answer my question.
50 pesos.
Ang issue, inattribute mo yung high prices ng face shields saka face masks dahil mataas ang demand and mababa ang supply, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yung face shields, for example.
With the indulgence of sending.
Teka muna, sandali, Senator
Oh,
Rizal.
sige po.
I would like to pursue this muna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yung usaping face shields, how could you justify high demand when the Philippines is the only country in the world that mandates the use of face shields among its citizens? Paano tataas ang demand? And we're talking of international market, hindi ba?
Yes,
Kasi
Mr. Chair.
imported yung mga face shields eh.
Yes, Mr.
So how
Chair.
could you attribute to high demand yung face shields? Never mind the face masks.
Yes. During that
Because
time, Mr.
practically, when we see on CNN, when we watch CNN, nakita naman talaga natin, all countries practically use, their citizens use face masks. But not face shields because tataka nga kami bakit yung Pilipino lang ang gumagamit ng face shields eh. Never mind as part of the PPE kasi medical frontliners yon. But ordinary citizens, tayo lang ang gumagamit ng face shields. Paano mo masasabi na mataas yung demand?
Yes, Mr. Chair. During that time, when we bidded it out, there were no producers of face shields in the Philippines. In fact, during that time, when we
No,
bid-
that's not my question.
That's not the question.
Ang tanong ko, yung supply and demand.
there was no manufacturer in the Philippines, and there was actually no history that face shields are being sold in the Philippines, except the ones that were being procured by DOH, I think 2019 and backwards until 2015. I think they have history of buying.
Okay.
face
How
shields.
many pieces of face shields did you procure?
Uh,
That time? Total.
Mr. Chair. I think almost 1 million pieces, Mr. Chair. 1 million pieces, Mr. Chair.
1 million pieces.
Yes.
Ilan yung medical frontliners na gumagamit ng face shields?
I have no data on that, Mr. Chair.
Anyway, I'll go back to my previous question. There's no such thing as high demand because sabi ko nga, tayo lang ang gumagamit ng face shields. Anyway, Mr. Chairman, yes, Senator Risa, I yield to you. I yield the floor to you.
Thank you, Sen Ping. Mr. Chairman, just a corroborating fact about 2 points that Sen Frank and Sen Ping just brought up. That name that, excuse me, that Sen Frank mentioned, who submitted a fake address here in the Philippines, just confirmed that Su Yen Huang is a board member of Pharmaly International Holding Company Limited, the Taiwanese company that I asked earlier, Mr. Lau, if they are affiliated. So it appears they are affiliated because that same Su Yen Huang who gave a fake address here in the Philippines is a board member of that Taiwan-based Pharmaly International Holding Company Limited. Just for the record, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator.
Let me interject on the matter of the subpoena that was requested by Senator Dillon. We issued subpoenas to all of them. And let me just say that in the case of Pharmaly Pharmaceutical, Wang Su Yan, wala si Su Yan, pero may Wang 23. Wala doon sa bakante. Nakabakante na. Nakabakante na. Yung vacant yung address niya. And you're right, she's affiliated with a Taiwan-based company. And Mohit Dargani refused to accept. Di ba, Rudy? They refused to accept. I think the wife received the subpoena and they refused to accept. This
Your Honor.
Go ahead, Rudy. Go ahead, Director General Kimbo.
Your the returns of the office of Sergeant at Arms of about 10 or 11 subpoena that were issued, they were duly served today at the following: Miss Christine Marie Suntay, received by Marlon de Guzman, Department of Budget and Management Staff. Attorney Samuel Dagpin, received by Cristina Salve, an employee. Mr. Girish Siltaldas, received by the driver. Mr. Maynard Ngu, received by a caretaker. And Mr. Michael Yang, received by Joyce Trujillo, office receptionist. That subpoena to Mr. Hernan Biron was not served because according to the security guard on duty, there is nobody in the unit to accept because Mr. Biron only goes there once a month. Nonetheless, our server left a copy of the subpoena with Mr. Partasan, just in case he sees Mr. Biron today. The one issued against Mr. Roberto Nazal was not served. Mr. Nazal was not home, and the kasambahay refused to receive the subpoena. Nonetheless, our server also left a copy of the subpoena. The one addressed to Miss Twinkle Dargani was also not served because according to the receptionist of Gold Hill Tower, Miss Plantalia, the addressee, Miss Dargani, is no longer staying in the condominium since 3 months ago. The subpoena addressed to Mr. Ferdinand Ferrer of EMS Components was not served because Mr. Ferrer's wife, Maria Elena Ferrer, refused to receive the subpoena. Nonetheless, our server left a copy of the subpoena with Mrs. Ferrer. And the one addressed to Mohit Dargani and Huang Su Yen, both were not served because according to the security guard on duty, said addresses are unknown to him, and he has also informed our server that Unit 14A in 1 McKinley Place has been vacant for more than 3 years. That is the complete report of the Office of Sergeant at Arms, Your Honor.
Well, that seems like there are badges of evasion, or they're just fronts giving fake addresses and perhaps even fake names. So let's ipsa loquitur. Did you do your due diligence, Attorney Lau? Is that the way you do your due diligence? Hindi mo kilala kung sino yung bumibili sa'yo? Kilala ko yung iba dyan eh. Nakikita ko sa mga litrato. Tingnan mo sa Google, makikita mo. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Senator Lacson, if you will allow.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
It's Mr.
I
Chair.
just want to get an answer from
Your Honor, if I may, sorry, my mistake. Mr. Ferrer has just made a statement on chat. He said, I am present, Ferdinand Ferrer. My apologies to Mr. Ferrer and my apologies to the committee.
Mr. Ferrer is present in the chat page? In the WebEx?
It means he's on WebEx, Your Honor.
Yeah, I think their family has been in the telecommunications field for a long time. Yes, the question has not been answered by Christopher Lau, and after him, I'll call on you with the permission of Senator Lacson. I'll call on Senator Marcos. Go ahead, please answer.
Mr. Chair, honestly, the only process that we conducted during the bidding is based on the.
I know you're trying to be humble.
Mr. Chair, I'm just trying to recall, Mr. Chair. We only use, Mr. Chair, we don't include the general information sheet, Mr. Chair. So we do not have the data on that, Mr. Chair.
If I look at the requirements of your bidding documents, it's required there that the corporation must submit certain documents, and I'm trying to pull it out right now, if I may. It is required.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chair, you agree with us, it is required, but you did not look at it.
I apologize, Mr. Chair. I was, I cannot recall, but I asked some of the staff in PSDBM. The answer is the general information sheet is not part of bidding documents submitted, Mr. Chairman. That is the only answer I can give, Mr. Chair.
Ay, nako, Mr. Chairman. Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, before we recognize Senator Amy, just to establish the track record, have they joined other government biddings before? Kasi kailangan meron silang track record before you even accept them as prospective bidders, di ba?
I am not aware, Mr. Chairman.
You're not even aware.
When we initially
That's a
started
requirement in the bidding.
during the time, during emergency procurement, Mr. Chairman, when we initially procured these items.
Just for the sake of informing you, you're the head of that department at that time, and here are the legal documents required. DTI business name registration in the case of single proprietorships, or SEC registration certificate in the case of partnerships or corporations, or CDA registration in the case of cooperatives. Did you check that out?
Yes, the registration, they have the SECs, they have the business permits, Mr. Chair.
Oh, then they should have given you the GIS.
They did not submit it, Mr. Chair. I think it's not one of the.
Because they did not submit and because you're giving them large amounts of money, you did not bother to check.
Mr. Chair, we do not pay them in advance. They have to deliver first.
I know, I didn't ask you that. I just said you're negotiating, and some of these are negotiated contracts, right?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Negotiated. That means it wasn't even done for bidding. Now,
Yes, Mr. Chair.
kung negotiated yan, di ba dapat makita mo na kagad na kailangan mag-due diligence ka, tignan mo, tama sila. Sila Senator Lacson. You have to really look at that. Okay, I don't want to go to the recital because obviously sa first base pa lang, out ka na eh. Let me call Senator Marcos. Go ahead, Senator
Yes,
Amy.
Mr. Chair. You're absolutely right po. It's very clear in the documents submitted to Phil Jeps and the rest, because after all, it is incumbent upon the bidders to comply with certain documents, even if it's a negotiated contract. On record, there is no license to operate, there is no registration, there was no permit, there's no SLCC or single largest completed contract, neither was there an FDA permit. So it's very, very curious. Ngunit sa kabila ng hindi makita ang mga taong to at hindi existing yung address, nananalo pa rin ang kontrata na tuloy-tuloy. Their last contract was 1.01 billion, June 29, for real-time fluorescent RT-PCR. That's just for the information of the body. Paano nakakabid at nananalo yan kung non-existent yung mga tao at lahat ng kumpanya?
That's wonderful.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator
Mr.
Dillon,
Chair.
I'm also
Yes.
jumping on my bit. I want to ask a question, but go ahead, Senator Dillon.
Yes. Attorney Lau, you were saying that we do not look at the general information sheet, but because that was not required. But the articles of incorporation, is it not a fact that it would show that Farmally was incorporated in September of 2019, just about 6 months before they got supply contracts amounting to billions of pesos? Did you look at and did you look at how much the paid up capital of Farmally to be authorized to enter into such a huge supply contract? The authorized capital stock and the paid up capital is less than 600,000 pesos. But the total award to Farmally, barely a 6-month-old corporation, amounted to 8.6 billion. Did you exercise diligence in doing this?
We failed to check on the articles of incorporation, Mr. Chair. Only the
such a simple thing. Articles of incorporation, it is supposed to be a corporation. You are a lawyer. A simple thing for you to do is to look at the articles. And if you look at the articles, you would notice that it was only incorporated in September of 2019 with a paid up capital of less than 600,000, and it ended up with contracts worth 8.6 billion. Are you telling us that given these figures, you exercised due diligence and protected public money?
During that time, Mr. Chairman, we did our best to exercise due diligence. Given
Senator Drilon, your
Yes.
best is not enough, Attorney Lau.
Mr. Chair.
This is an interesting question. Did you do it on your own or somebody ordered you to award the contracts to those suppliers? Tell us the truth.
We did not.
Did you do that on your own?
No, Mr. Chair.
Because you did not follow proper procedure. You violated, you throw out of the window lahat ng requirements, lahat ng mga kailangan. So either you did it on your own or somebody ordered you to award those contracts to those suppliers. Because clearly there's a collusion. How can you award billions of pesos worth of contracts to non-existent na addresses.
This is what happened, Mr. Chair. During the time when there was scarcity, we were trying to use our diplomatic access to get these items. So when we were contacting through embassies, to ambassadors, special envoys, these companies were referred to us. And when they were referred to us, they made offers, and we just responded to them. In fact, a lot of
Now, Mr. Attorney Lau, please very careful. Please be very careful. You're implicating ambassadors here.
Yes, Mr. Chair, nagpadala po kami ng official letter sa kanila. In fact, we conducted meetings. We were trying our best to get suppliers. It's all on record. And when we did it, when several suppliers started coming, when they started making offers, we just entertained them. It's not that we choose them. Kasi pag nagbibid po kami, meron pong RFQ, marami naman po nagre-respond. Yung iba din, mahal.
So how were you able to deal with these people when they submitted fictitious addresses or fake addresses? How were you able to contact them?
They go to our office, Mr. Chair.
And you did not even bother saan sila nakatira?
We had no time during that. We had no time during
You're dealing with billions of pesos worth of public funds.
Yes, the only
I'm sorry, but your explanation will fail even an ordinary layman. Pag ganyan ang explanation mo, we cannot accept that. Yes, Senator Drilon.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, I'd like to know from Mr. Lau, did you know the officials of Farmally, or did somebody introduce you to the officials of Farmally?
I don't know the officials of Farmally, Mr. Chairman.
You do not know the officials of Farmally. But would the ordinary prudence tell you that if you awarded 9.8 billion pesos, malaman mo ba na kung sino mga tao ito na binibigyan nyo ng lalaking kontrata whose addresses, it turns out, are even non-existent and fraudulent?
Mr. Chairman, when that bidding was conducted, kasi dadaan siya ng yung committee. Then they make a market study, they make request for quotations. After they get RFQ, who's the lowest, siya ang i-negotiate. After they negotiate it, i-submit ang mga documents nila, then submit it to my office for signature and assessment. I cannot go down to the function of the group that makes assessment kasi bawal po. So hindi po ako pwede makisali sa ganun.
Mr. You are a lawyer. You know that the evidence must not only be credible but also consistent with human behavior and human nature. Dito po talagang mahirap paniwalaan na ang isang korporasyon walang experience in bidding in supplies, 6 months old, binigyan mo ng kontrata na mahigit sa 8 bilyong piso at sinasabi mo hindi mo kilala. Diyos ko po naman. Ikaw naman, sino ang nagpakilala sa iyo? Who formally to supply?
I think on the records, Mr. Chair, they have on the records who endorsed them to our office. I think PSDBM can answer that, Mr. Chair. Basta pagkaalam ko, there are multiple Chinese companies that went to our office and responded, and we reacted to them. And
you mean to say they just walk into your office? They are companies that you do not know. They are just 6 months old with no prior awards, dealings. Bibigyan nyo ng kontratang 8 bilyong piso, and it turns out that the addresses are even non-existent. They committed forgeries and perjuries in the general information sheet. What kind of...
Senator Drilon,
Yes,
point
sir.
of information, point of information. Sinabi nyo kanina, 6 months old yung korporasyon, September 2019, nung nag-incorporate. Sabi ng guard sa building, 2018, wala na raw nakatira doon sa address na yun eh.
Yes.
2018, wala na nakatira, and yet nag-incorporate ng 2019. How can you
Eh,
beat
2
that?
months ago nga, nananalo pa ng kontratang 1 billion.
Anong 1 billion? 8 billion, I mean.
No, yung latest po, yung latest June 2021. They
Yung
keep,
RT-PCR.
they keep alluding to the 2020 shortage of all these PPEs, but they're still winning with or without incorporators, with real or fake addresses. I'd like to ask sana, nasa GIS that the beneficial owner of both Farmally as well as Bowman, parehong walang FDA, parehong walang license to operate, parehong walang SLCC, belong to a certain Lincoln Ong. Kilala daw po ninyo ito at matalik na kaibigan, Yusek.
No, Mr. Chair. I think I met him in PSTBM when they were conducting biddings, Mr. Chair. Other than that, there is no personal relations, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Attorney Lau, you
Yes,
know, we're almost tempted to cite you in contempt of this committee. So you better be forthright. You better be honest in your answers. You're trying to be evasive.
Mr. Chair, may be allowed to explain.
You've been explaining and your explanation has not been satisfactory. Anyway, go ahead.
Ganito kasi, Mr. Chair. We contacted during that time, initially, mahirap talaga yung supply. We were, I think, negotiating with China.
That is not the issue eh.
That's
Mahirap talaga ang supply, pero ba't ka nag-award
Chair,
doon sa mga fictitious?
How we met them, how these companies were able to go to our office. Kasi even during that time, even I have no access with anybody. Those who are present suppliers of DOH are not willing to supply. So what we did was we worked together with the embassies, the FA.
Yusek, aabot na ng 16 billion ang pinapanalunan nilang kontrata, di mo pa kilala.
Yun nga, may I be allowed to explain this, Mr. Chair, for a while. After kasi nung nag-negotiate kami with the foreign countries, Ambassador Wang, we requested that they give us list of the suppliers or in their country. So they sent us list. We tried to contact them. We asked the special envoys. One of the special envoys were Ambassador Lima, William Lima, and there was, I think, one of the Chinese representatives who contacted us is Xing Yang, and they were the ones who contacted us and referred these companies. However, most of the companies who proposed to sell to us wanted full payment outright. Ang naka-negotiate lang namin na mura, na pumayag, is yung ni-refer sa amin ni Ambassador William Lima, which wherein we were using the Philippine Air Force na C-130 and the Philippine Navy that went to China to pick those up. After that, continue sila ng deliver. Nag-open na, I think, nag-open na ang merchant vessels and airplanes. We continued trying to procure. Meron ng mga ilang Chinese companies na referred ng mga some of the special envoys that made an offer to us that these are the terms, but we want them to go to the Philippines to submit this document. So some of them sent representatives. That is only based on the fact that there were endorsements of these ambassadors. In fact, we wouldn't know whether or not these were fraudulent because we had meetings with them. Nung kay Farmally, we had meetings with them sa BGI together with the Chinese embassy. Tapos yung sa A-Star Fortitude, kasi sila, we talked with Singapore Ambassador Yap, and we were endorsed to A-Star Fortitude because there was a problem in the importation in the Philippines. A-Star Fortitude offered to us that they have this distributor in Singapore who can directly offer to us the MERSES. So pinutol namin yung Farmally and went directly, not directly to A-Star, but only to MERSES because they were the one endorsed already to us by A-Star Fortitude. Yung the rest po ng mga PPEs, continuous po. Yun, when we bid, sino po ang nagbibid? Ganun lang po. But to say na hindi naman po yan awarded one time sila eh. Kasi we started na sila lang ang nag-offer. You can check naman po. It's on the
Well,
report.
Attorney Lau, I cut you
Special envoy.
there, ano. Sabi nga ni Senator Amy, hanggang June 2021, nag-award pa kayo, eh, hindi na nga ma-establish kung saan nakatira. Award pa rin kayo ng award. How can you explain that?
Mr. Chairman, during the time, they were delivering, so there was no red flag to us. Kasi di ba last time when we had a bidding, merong company na nanalo, tapos meron sila sa record namin that meron pala silang blacklisting, na-cancel. Nagkaroon na
Okay, you did not answer my previous question. Ano pa mga government biddings sila nakasali? Para lang ma-establish yung track record nila.
To other offices, Mr. Chair, only within my office.
Wala pa.
I
Diyan
have
lang sa PSDBM.
no information, Mr. Chair. I cannot answer that, Mr. Chair. I'm not in the authority to answer that. Or
Sabi mo, marami na silang sinasalihan at saka requirement yan, di ba? To establish their track record.
It is in my office, Mr. Chair.
In your office.
Company, only in my office.
Mr. Chairman, may I direct my question? Ika-clarify ko lang kay Director General Kimbo. Nabanggit niya kanina Michael Yang. Ano po ba spelling nung Yang? Kasi there's a certain Michael Yang who used to be Presidential Assistant for Economic Affairs. And I believe he's Chinese. No?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
One moment, sir. I
wonder if he's the same Michael Yang.
Yes, Your Honor.
Who used to be Presidential Assistant on Economic Affairs. But I don't think he's still connected with Malacanang now.
Excuse me, Senator Lacson. We fished out a video. And I just want to see the connectivities here, and you can go to town if you like, trying to fish out the connectivities here. Please show the video. This is our TVN. You see, do you know Mr. Michael Yang? Is that Michael Yang there in the picture? You see, the lady there is Director Puno of FDA. And I can see Senator Bongo.
Yeah, I believe that's Michael Yang. That's Michael Yang
in the purple shirt or lavender shirt, correct? Di ba?
If he is the same Michael Yang referred to earlier by Director General Kimbo, Mr. Chairman. But I'm sure the one that you were pointing at earlier, Michael Yang din yan.
Yun nga, Michael Yang. So they went to the palace according to this news report from RTVM, the government channel, in Davao City. And Mr. Bongo, Senator Bongo, our own very own, was there. You can see that. And it's been said that Christopher Lloyd Lau worked with Malacanang, worked with Senator Bongo, and you've been denying that. Is that correct?
I work under the Office of the President, under Office of the Special Assistant to the President, under the umbrella of Office of the
So you don't know Senator Bongo, and I'm not trying to implicate him here. All I'm just saying is, let's be frank and candid here, because what I see here is a meeting which is fair. It's open. It's being televised to the whole country. And now let's connect it now to the bidding. All right? Formerly, President Wang is here. Do you know Mr. Wang? You said he just came into your door, right? In your office.
I do not know him personally, Mr. Chair.
Oh, come on. You just said a while ago that he went to see you.
No, Mr. Chair, the one who went to our office, I think, is Mr. Lincoln Ong. I don't know Mr. Wang.
You're under oath, huh? When did you first meet Mr. Wang, if you did meet Mr. Wang? Now you're denying it.
What I need Ming Yang, I think, Mr. Chair, Ming Yang.
Mr. Wang.
Wang, no, I don't know Mr. Chair. I don't know Mr. Wang, Mr. Chair.
You don't know him, but yet you gave him the award. And of course, you don't know him and you conveniently did not check his bona fides in his GIS, in his corporation. You don't even know if they've done this business before.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing that was required during that time when we were bidding is the SEC registration.
Are you a senator now? You can make the laws the way you want it. Those laws were made by the legislature, and I can show you what you have to follow. You have to follow and take a look at the registration of the corporation. Can you show again yung listahan? Yeah, I already said business name, the SEC, valid and current mayor's permit. Did you check that? Do you
Yes.
know if they paid taxes?
Yes.
Because you're not going to give it to them if they don't pay taxes, correct?
They submitted all of those documents, Mr. Chair. It's with the
But
office.
you said you did not see it.
It is with the office of the PSDBM, Mr. Chair.
But you're the one in charge.
Mr. Chair, the procurement process starts.
You need to tell me you are giving out 8 billion pesos worth of money and you're not even gonna bother. Sino kaya ito? Ang lalaki mag-bid eh. Billion eh. Di ba? Doesn't it even pique your curiosity?
If we do that, Mr. Chairman, then ako,
what?
It naman kami later on for association. So what we do is
What will happen if you do that?
We might be held liable for association. So what we
For
do is
what?
under association, Mr. Chairman, kasi bawal po yan sa
Anong association? You have to take a look at who's bidding. That's why you ask for those documents. Anong
Yes.
association?
If it's just pass or fail, Mr. Chair, during the bidding, if they submit these documents, if it is complete, they pass. If it's not
Part of the documents, isn't that true, is that they have to submit all these requirements of corporation that they have paid, tax clearance certificate from the BR main offices. Their address must be accurate because if you go after them, you know their addresses and that they live there. Is it not correct?
the SEC registration should be valid and consonant with the SEC records. As to whether or not it is valid, Mr. Chair, hindi na po namin ma-validate yan. Kasi sa SEC, pag nag-register sila, hindi naman kasi kasali si PS.
You're very cavalier with the people's money. Kaya nagagalit ang tao. Wala tayong pambayad doon sa mga tao. Kung di sila mabigyan ng ayuda, kung di sila mabigyan ng mga nurses ng kanilang SRA, it's because of people like you who are so cavalier about holding the people's money.
Mr. Chair, I think it's unfair to
Mr.
say that
Chairman.
because we're doing our best. And during that time,
No, your best is not enough, it would appear.
I apologize, Mr.
Now,
Chair.
let me tell you this. When you graduated from law school in Ateneo de Davao, you graduated first ABA. You taught at the Ateneo de Davao, is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And then you became a lawyer, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And what was your first job?
Legal researcher, Mr. Chairman.
What?
For housing. Legal researcher for...
You're a paralegal, right? And a college teacher. Then you passed the bar exam in 2005. And then you became a 6-month and 6 months, you were an arbiter of HLURB, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And of course, in 2006, 2016, according to you, were in the law firm. And then Mr. Duterte campaigned and you became a manager. You were an election lawyer. And is it not true that you became presidential management staff, office of the special assistant to the president? Nakalagay undersecretary with the rank of undersecretary with Andy Lowe, another friend of yours, who is now in 2021 still a USEC in PMS. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So you're all associated together, right? And the wife of Andy Lowe is the first judge appointed by the president in Davao. Is that correct?
I cannot confirm that, Mr. Chair.
You cannot confirm? Andy Lowe is your friend.
Anderson
And,
is my
and you
friend.
were with the frigate deal and you had the brouhaha with Empedrad and Mercado, resulting in the cashiering of a respected officer, Mr. Mercado. And then of course, you became officer in charge. Wow! Sabi mo, I'm just lucky. You were put in charge of a company, of an entity of the government that is now conducting all the biddings that are multi-billion. And yet you don't care whether you're going to check on all the people. You don't even ask your staff, tingnan nyo kung tama yung binasambit na yan. And I'm aware that you're very strict when doon sa pass-fail na sinasabi mo, nakapag-bidding na, papalitan pa rin nyo, maglalagay kayo ng bagong requirements, in writing pa, in handwriting, and then you're going to change the winning bidder to your favorite bidder.
We don't do that, Mr. Chairman.
I can prove that to you.
We don't do that, Mr. Chairman. I apologize, but we don't do that.
What are you apologizing about? I'm just trying to find out what is going on. I don't have anything against you. But it seems, as you say, by association, ayan lahat, Michael Young was not in that meeting. The president of this corporation was in that meeting with the president. Of course, that was 3 years before, May 2017. And now, the pandemic started May 19. And now, all of a sudden, you give big contracts, 8 billion, 18 billion? Or how do you expect us to look at that? Even if you tell a high school graduate that, di ba magdududa? And once nagduda, once nagkaroon ng perception na may kalokohan, lagot ka na. Sira na ang paniwala ng tao sa iyo. Alright? We're not dummies here, you know. We do our job well. And by the way, did you not apply for the ombudsman? Ang swerte mo. Naging commissioner ka pa ng HLURB. Ang galing mo. Wala kang dating pinagdaanan na hirap. Tapos naging HLURB commissioner ka. Ang swerte mo. Pagkatapos naging ombudsman, naging officer in charge ka ng PSDBM, and now ombudsman. Nag-apply ka. Nung nandun ako, sabi ko, ba't nag-apply ito? Ang lakas sa loob nito. Sabi ko gano'n. Mabuti nag-withdraw ka. Because when we would have interviewed you. What makes you think there was another applicant the other day? And because she had no credentials as a practicing judge? We said no. Ikaw mag-a-apply ka sa ombudsman. Bakit? Are you preparing for an escape plan na pag pumutok ito, pag wala ng presidente, wala ka ng kapit, lalabas lahat yung kalokohan mo? Is that the truth?
No, Mr. Chair.
That is my conclusion. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, when I was a OIC sa PSDBM, it happened because natanggal po yung existing PSDBM because kulang siya ng master's degree. That's why I was OIC. In fact,
You just happened to be there, right?
yes, Mr. Chair, I
Your
was
associations just happened to be very convenient, right? You're associated with Senator Go. You were the campaign lawyer for the president. Your friends are there. In fact, the guy who replaced you there is still there. And then you lie to me, you don't know Mrs. Lo? Kaya ako nagalit sa iyo eh. Galit na ako talaga because you're lying.
I did not know Mrs. Lo. I do not know if she was the first judge appointed.
So you know Mrs. Go. So you're not Mrs. Go. So in other words, you're splitting hairs.
She is a lawyer. She is a
I'm telling
judge.
you must be an expert because you have no more hair, I suppose.
No, Mr. Chair. Just Judge Lo has been a MTC judge before. So when I was practicing,
Ay, nako.
I
Kasi
already-
nahihirapan kami sa gobyerno. Go ahead, Senator Ping.
Earlier, he averred that he did not know
Please lead us of this
know Mr.
pestilence.
was appointed judge. Now he's saying that he knows the background of Mrs. Lo.
Yes.
Earlier,
She just said that.
used to be MTC judge, so he's been very evasive from the start.
Mr. Chair, I'll answer it. This
And
Judge
Attorney Lau,
Lo is
very
an
lucky
MTC
that
judge
you
when I
were
was
able
practicing
to,
here.
excuse me, Attorney Lau.
Yes,
We're
yes.
also lucky that you were able to barge into the laging handa briefing all of a sudden.
What laging handa?
Just to explain your side, bigla ka nando sa laging handa briefing and you were not anymore connected with Malacanang or with any government agency, and yet you were accommodated by laging handa briefing. How lucky could you get?
Mr. Chairman, I was contacted by PSDBM simultaneously when all these things happened. Even private news televisions were trying to contact me, and also the government news agency also contacted me, and I answered only to that particular company. In fact, when Senate also contacted me and Congress also contacted me for subpoena, I willingly responded. But it doesn't mean
And of course, Mr. Lacson, if I may, you just happened to be in the room with Admiral Empedrad. Using your position, you called him, and it just happened that there was a controversy involving the supply of the combat management systems of the new vessels that were contracted in Korea, costing 15.5 billion pesos, correct? It's just convenient, isn't it? It's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable, really, when it comes back to you and haunts you. You cannot lie, you know.
That's my because that was my job, Mr. Chairman. I have to do my job.
Really? Your job is to check in the Defense Department? You know, Senator Lacson is a Committee on Defense. She did not even bother to call them.
There was a complaint sent to a letter. We just asked them to explain, and they just explained. They even presented, And in fact, we were able to explain that during the last Senate investigation on the frigate, yun lang ang sinagot namin na they just presented, and that's the only thing we did, record purposes
And,
lang.
and how did you feel when, when Admiral Mercado, a career officer, was suddenly cashiered? And it all started by that meeting with you when it was exposed by the newspapers. And it became a controversy. How do you feel?
I'm also shocked.
Admiral Mercado lost his job.
I was also shocked, Mr. Chairman, because I also did not know during that time what would be the repercussion. The only concern during that time was there was
Your witness. Yes, Senator John.
I don't think we can still get anything from this witness, from person, because it's been evasive since the time that he started answering questions. Can you expect to get some satisfactory answers from this person, Mr. Chairman? Well, it's in your hands. We'll support whatever action you would take on the matter, because being evasive is a ground for citation for contempt. There are rules, Mr. Chairman. It is your call. And if anyone would move to cite him in contempt of this committee, then I will support it. I will second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
We can put this guy in contempt anytime, because I was going to ask him again of a note that was given to Mr. Mercado, Admiral Mercado, and can you please put back that note? And it instructed you to Admiral Mercado, Ronald, this was given to me by Bongo. This is coming from Secretary Lorenzana, a man of integrity. Go over it and prepare or report rebuttal to be submitted to the president. So, and this was the offshoot of that meeting between you and Admiral Empedrad, correct?
That letter, that note is not coming from me, Mr. Chairman. That's not my handwriting, Mr. Chairman.
No, I didn't say it was yours. You're not even listening. That came from Secretary Lorenzana, excuse me. But the fact is you were part of the Salansan there. Biglang nawala yung kontrata at nagkaroon pa ng another problem because when nilagay na yung Korean I remember that in the debates to the Senate. The military should be given the hardware that they desire. It should never be supply driven. And in this particular case, again, you're getting supplies because of your relationship, because of your past. It's supply driven. In fact, I asked you the other day, is it your habit to go to the supplier and ask, sige, mag-supply ka rito? Because of dami-daming pera? Boy, you must be flying high at the time. Well, can you blame us if we think that way? I don't know you. I want to put you in a pressure cooker, but right now, when you come here, you better tell us the truth. The truth of the matter is, you knew Mr. Wang. You were associated with Senator Go, and he says you never worked for him. That may be true. You never worked for him, but he knew you. You knew him because you were all part of the campaign committee, and all of a sudden, your friends were also taking over from the department that you left. So how do you expect us to believe you? So, it's so hard to be in this committee because sometimes you have to really be direct because, if we don't look at this, it will go on happening and happening and happening over and over again. At ang talo palagi ang tao. Yung dapat pumuntang pera, sa tamang bagay, napupunta sa mga bulsa ng mga, tawag ko kahapon, mga sawang pumasok sa poultry ng bayan. In other words, you are not conducting yourself with due diligence. You did not do due diligence. Siyempre, galing yung mga request na sa Department of Health, correct?
Mr. Chairman.
Correct? Galing lahat yung request sa Department of Health, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Hindi mo ba sinabi kay Secretary Duque, ikaw na lang yan, Secretary of Health ka, basta alam mo yan eh. Bakit ako?
We sent a letter.
Tapos madudulas ka dito, sasabihin mo, pumapasok sa kwarto mo yung mga yan. That's highly irregular. When you're conducting a bidding, you cannot talk with these people. Go ahead, Senator Dylan. Recognized. Senator Frank, you're recognized.
In the course of our inquiry this afternoon, Mr. Chairman, the witness, Mr. Lau, admitted that he did not exercise due diligence or simple prudence in approving the negotiated contracts to these pharmaceuticals for 8.9 billion. He did not look, the articles of incorporation indicated that it was incorporated only in September of 2019, and it had no prior experience insofar as bidding for government contracts are concerned. 6 months after the bidding, the corporation was incorporated, the corporation with only a paid-up capital of less than 600,000 was awarded contracts in the billions of pesos. And the good Mr. Lau admitted that he did not exercise diligence in looking at the very simple fact. Articles of incorporation, September 2019. Paid up capital, 600,000. And yet the awards for these supplies amounted to 8.5 or over 8 billion. Under these circumstances, Mr. President, I think the Attorney Lau should be made liable for anti-graft, for entering into a contracts with which are grossly prejudicial to the interests of the government, and failed by his own admission to exercise the necessary prudence in order to prevent this totally disadvantageous contract from taking place. In view of this, Mr. Chairman, may I move that the matter of this particular transaction entered into by Mr. Lau, where he admitted that he did not exercise diligence, be referred to the Ombudsman for appropriate investigation under the anti-graft law. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, I was called to
yes.
the phone.
I
Senator
yes.
Bongo called me and he wants to have his repost.
Before that, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a motion, given the testimony of Mr. Lau, that he did not exercise prudence in checking on the capability of a 6-month-old corporation with a paid-up capital of less than 600,000 to be awarded negotiated contracts of over 8 billion pesos, which turns out to be overpriced. And to me, these are all indications that, or at the very least, a prima facie case for violation of the anti-graft law. Because by the admission of Mr. Lau, just a few hours this afternoon, he did not exercise prudence, the prudence needed to guard the public funds. And this should be investigated by the Ombudsman for possible violation of the anti-graft law for awarding contracts patently disadvantageous to the government and not exercising the necessary prudence to prevent the losses of government funds for having failed to check on simple things like the date of incorporation of the corporation being awarded the contract. The fact that the GIS indicated an address which is non-existent. So all of this, an ordinary person would exercise diligence. And here, he admitted that he did not exercise the diligence needed. And therefore, I think this warrants an investigation by the Ombudsman for possible prosecution for anti-graft. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
I agree with you, Mr. Senator Drilon. I agree with Senator Lacson as well. And Senator Amy came up with some compelling facts that there's so many billions of pesos that are not being properly investigated. You know, kahit na 100,000 lang, 500,000, dapat investigate mo kung sino yung mga taong pumapasok dyan. At ngayon, nakikita natin, hindi na makita yung mga taong yan, nagtatatago lahat. So talagang dapat talaga investigahin. It really is so difficult to conduct these investigations because if you just base it on the, ang tawag doon, yung lumalabas sa website nila, PhilJet, ako, wala ka makikita kasalanan dyan. Pero pag sinilip ka na Senator Lacson, sinilip ka na Senator Lacson, ni Senator Marcos, sinilip ni Senator Drilon, sinilip ko, makikita talaga yung glaring irregularities, yung glaring inconsistencies, at pag sumagot, hindi consistent na sagot, very evasive. Tama, sabi nga ni Senator Lacson, we should declare him in contempt. But, all our investigations here, whether it's approved by the Senate or not, I submit it to the Department of Justice and to the Ombudsman so that they could take the necessary action. And most of the time, they do. And I thank the Ombudsman and the Sandigan Bayan. They do because we do a good job here. We try to do a good job here at least. So, Mr. President, I saw the Senate President a while ago. Let me just say that I agree with you very wholeheartedly. And what is the pleasure now of the body? Shall we go to the next? Because Senator Lacson is not finished yet.
Wala na akong gana magtanong, Mr. Chairman.
Ako, nakakapagod, ano? Nakakapagod. All right, who's next? Is next, but I would, I'm very transparent. Senator Bongo called up and said that wag naman ako idol dyan, wag naman ako I have no intentions of doing that. I was just trying to test the credibility of the witness, and I don't feel it that I have to be defensive. But I will let Senator Go speak for himself. Go ahead, please.
Good day, Mr. Chair, distinguished colleagues, and to our resource persons in this hearing. Mr. Chair, with the permission of my colleagues, may I give my statement since I was already mentioned in the course of the discussions. Since na-mention po ang hearing about the Navy, about the frigate, as far as I can recall, si Senator Honasan po ang mismong chair ng hearing na nag-imbestiga nito at lumabas na po ang katotohanan at wala po akong kinalaman doon. Naging senador na po ako. Lumabas ang katotohanan sa hearing na ito na pinamumunuan mismo ni Senator Honasan, Senator Lacson, and Senator Soto. Maraming salamat po sa mga colleagues ko ngayon na lumabas na po yung katotohanan. Mr. Chair, first of all, I want to reiterate that I am one with the chairman and my colleagues in ensuring no funds are lost to corruption. As a senator and a member po of the Blue Ribbon Committee, nakikiisa po ako sa inyo rito at kasama niyo po ako dito na gustong malaman ang katotohanan. Tama po si Chairman Gordon, investigasyon sa Bucor, sa GCTA, Pastillas, sa PhilHealth, marami na pong nasuspendido at marami na pong nakasuhan. Pero hindi ko naman po ibig sabihin pinagtatanggol ko ang Pangulo, pero ibig niya pong sabihin ay sa investigasyon natin dito, tuluyan po natin ang dapat tuluyan, panagutin po ang dapat panagutin, kasuhan po ang dapat kasuhan, ikulong po ang dapat ikulong. Seryoso po si Pangulong Duterte sa kampanya laban sa korupsyon. Wala kaming pinapalampas, kahit sino ka man, kahit saan ka man ang galing, basta napatunayang sangkot ka sa korupsyon, dapat kang managot. Kaya nga po, nakikiusap ako sa COA, sa Ombudsman na imbestigahan, panagutin ang may anomalya. Kaya nga po may COA, Ombudsman at Sandigan Bayan tayo. Imbestigahan, kasuhan at ikulong ang dapat managot. Yan naman po ang trabaho nila para matigil na po ang mga haka-haka dahil sabi ko nga unfair naman po ito sa mga nagtatrabaho po ng matino. Labanan po ito ng perception. Kawawa naman po yung napagbibintang magnanakaw dahil lang sa obserbasyon na hindi pa naman pinal o conclusive. Findings pa lang ay nahusgahan na sila. Kawawa naman yung mga nadadamay na tao. Wala namang kalam-alam, binibigyan binigyan ng naman ng DOH ng 60 days para sagutin o rectify ang mga obserbasyon sa kanila. May proseso tayong dapat sundin, bigyan po natin sila ng pagkakataon na sagutin. Kung hindi masagot o hindi ma-account, kasuhan na po kaagad natin dahil importante po ang bawat piso na pondo po ng bayan. Marami pong nangangailangan, lalong-lalo na po nasa krisis tayo ngayon, itong kinakaharap nating krisis. Mismo po si Pangulong Duterte ayaw ng katiwalian sa gobyerno. He means business. Kapag may kinalaman, tuluyan na. Iyariin na po natin. Sabi naman ni Pangulong Duterte, pasensyahan tayo. Pag pumasok ka sa korupsyon, iari ka talaga. Yan naman isa sa mga una niyang pinangako sa mga kababayan natin. Campaign against illegal drugs, criminality, and corruption. Mr. Chair, my name continues to be unfairly dragged into issues related to former DBM Undersecretary Lau. Though I'm now a senator, pinagpipilitan pa rin po ng iba na aide ko siya o tao ko siya, kahit na ipinilawanag ko na po sa nakaraang Blue Ribbon Committee hearing mo ang katotohanan, sa muli, inuulit ko for the 9th time. Hindi ko aide o hindi ko po tauhan si Attorney Lloyd Lau. Kailanman, hindi po siya directly na nagre-report sa akin na tauhan ko talaga. Iba yung aid na tauhan mo na nagre-report sa'yo. May sarili siyang trabaho, may sarili siyang buhay. Si Lau ay isa sa mga daan-daang empleyado, official po ng Malacanang noon, 2016. Naging bugado siya ni Pangulo nung kampanya. He was appointed to the Presidential Management Staff at the start of the President Duterte's term until early 2017, after which he was appointed nga po to HLURB and later to the DBM in 2019, before resigning last June of this year. Yusek Lau did not directly report to me, nor did he ever serve as my aide o tauhan ko talaga. Kilala ko po siya. Taga Davao rin po siya. Pero hindi ko po siya tauhan o aide. Eh kung may kasalanan siya, panagutin natin. Kung kailangan ikulong natin. Kailangan i-contempt natin. I already assumed my post in July 2019 as an elected senator when Lau was designated to head the PSDBM in August 2019. Sa makatuwid, magkaiba po ang naging landas namin ni Attorney Lau. Taong 2019, senador na ako. Taong 2017, wala na po siya sa PMS. Huwag niyo na pong ipilit iugnay sa akin si Lau ngayon at sino mang nakatrabaho ko noon. Noong Special Assistant to the President po ako mula 2016 to 2018, tumakbo na po ako noong Oktubre, mayroon akong oversight functions base po sa Executive Order number 1 sa ilang mga opisina sa Office of the President tulad ng PMS, yung protocol at iba pa ng mga opisina dyan. Pero hindi ibig sabihin dahil nakatrabaho ko sila noon ay naging aide ko na o tauhan ko na kagad sila. As Special Assistant to the President then, I was not involved in the day-to-day operations and management of the Office of the President. As per Section 2 of EO1, as SAP, I exercise mere oversight functions of 3 independent and cross-functional offices like the OSAP, Office of the Appointment Secretary, and PMS. Limitado lang po ang administrative and supervisory functions. Sinisigurado na nagagawa nila ang kanilang mga mandates, may patupad ang mga improvements sa mga sistema at proseso para mas maging efficient at effective po ang opisina po ng Office of the President. Kakaupo pa lang ni Pangulong Duterte, halos lahat ng mga opisina na under sa oversight po ay gustong ma-identify po sa maliit na opisina ng OSAP. Dahil ito ang malapit sa Pangulo nung umpisa pa ng kanyang administrasyon, pero hindi ibig sabihin, aid o ka-close ko na kayo. Marami po dyan, feeling close lang po. Iba po ang aid, iba po ang nakatrabaho. Pero ako po, yung kampanya namin ni Pangulong Duterte laban sa korupsyon, hindi po kami tumitigil hanggang ngayon. Lalabanan mo namin yan. Kahit sino ka pa, kahit tumulong ka pa nung kampanya, kahit na magkaibigan ka. Wala po kami pinipili. Lahat na nagre-report sa Malacanang compound noon ay katrabaho ko. Hindi ibig sabihin naging aide ko na po at tauhan ko na po. Hindi naman siya directly nagre-report sa akin. Anyway, Mr. Chair, nandito po, meron lang po ako i-share na slides to be flashed on screen for the nandito ang listahan ng mga empleyado ng OSAP na napakaliit lang po niyan. Isang USEC lang po ang under dyan, isang ASEC. Yan lang po ang Office of the Special Assistant to the President. Ito naman po ang kanyang service record na nakalagay Presidential Management Staff ang sweldo po niya. Dahil po oversight function lang po yun. Napakaliit lang po ng opisina. Ito naman po ang sweldo niya. Klaro naman po na sa PMS po siya kumukuha ng sweldo. Napakarami po ng empleyado ng PMS. Pero sa totoo lang, ang mahalaga dito ang pulisiya namin ni Pangulong Duterte na kahit sino ka man, kahit saan ka man ang galing, kahit tumulong ka pa nung eleksyon kay Pangulong Duterte, kapag pumasok ka sa korupsyon, yari ka talaga. Pero kung wala ka namang kinalaman, itigil na lang po ang pag-iintriga sa kapwa, kawawa naman po. Gaya ng sinabi ko, ang pangunahing bilin ni Pangulo sa kanyang mga ina-appoint, hindi po siya nakikialam paano po magtrabaho yung mga tao niya. Ito lang po sinasabi niya, kahit sino, just do what is right and avoid corruption. Kapag ginawa mo ang tama at inuuna mo interes ng mga Pilipino, suportado ka namin. Wala kaming pinipili ni Pangulong Duterte sa laban kontra korupsyon, kriminalidad at illegal na droga. Kung mapatunayang may kasalanan ka talaga, kasuhan na agad para matapos na po ang issue at mas matutukan na po natin ang laban kontra sa pandemya. Ulitin ko, basta pumasok ka sa korupsyon. Maaring na-appoint ng mga taga Davao, pero ito ay dahil kilala sila ng Pangulo, may tiwala sa kanila at alam ang kanilang kakayahan. Dahil yun naman po ang kilala ni Pangulong Duterte dahil probinsyano po siya. Doon ang gagaling halos yung mga kilala niya. Pero kahit may utang na loob sa kanya, wala sa usapan ng korupsyon. Pareho kaming galit sa magnanakaw. Masagasaan na po ang dapat masagasaan. Wala kaming pakialam. Kung may reklamo at haka-haka, may intriga, may proseso naman po ang executive branch para maimbestigahan ang sino mang gumawa ng korupsyon. Bukas po ang tanggapan ni Pangulong Duterte. Sinabi niya yan. Binibigyan halaga ni Pangulong Duterte ang bawat reklamo, kahit anumang reklamo. Tatukin lang daw siya at handa siyang makinig. Kung ano man ang gawin ng proseso ng executive branch po sa mga reklamo ay nasa kanila na po yan. May proseso pong ginagawa ang executive branch. Bilang senador naman, suportado ko po ang mga investigasyon na ito para po lumabas ang katotohanan, para po mapanagot ang dapat mapanagot. At kasuhan po natin ang dapat kasuhan. Anyway, medyo isi-segue ko na lang po konti dahil ito naman po issue. Dahil naawa na po ako dito sa dalawang taong ito. I'm referring to the President and Secretary Duque. To Secretary Duque, tagal ka nang kilala ni Pangulo. Alam naman natin, alam ni Pangulo, isa kang tapat sa iyong tungkulin. Kaya nga po ikaw ang kanyang pinili nung pagkatapos ng isang secretary. Alam natin nakapagserbisyo ka na rin sa dati sa ibang administrasyon bilang health secretary at tatay mo rin po naging health secretary. At imbis na mag-retire ka na lang sana, wala masyadong pressure na, inanyayahan ka magsilbi sa bayan muli ni Pangulong Duterte. Nagpapasalamat kami dyan sa iyong dakilang sakripisyo. Make no mistake, sabi nga ni Pangulong Duterte, may tiwala siya sa iyo until the end. Pero mahirap na. You have done so much already for Filipinos. We don't want that because of issues about you. Your output will be compromised, especially now that we both know lives are at stake. My word of advice is make the supreme sacrifice when the right time comes. For now, may hearing naman tayo dito as member po of the Senate Committee, Blue Ribbon Committee. Clear yourself in the DOH, sa lahat po ng empleyado ng DOH, and address COA's findings. Gusto ng tao malaman ang katotohanan. Importante, lumabas po kayo ng malinis, lumabas ka ng malinis, mahal ka ng Pangulo at pinaglalaban ka niya. Alam ko, mahal mo rin ang Pangulo. Desisyon mo na yan pagdating ng panahon. But my advice is make the supreme sacrifice. Alang-alang na lang sa mga kababayan nating Pilipinos. Naawa na rin po ako kay Pangulong Duterte. Pinapasan na po niya ang mundo at lahat ng problema. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Go. As promised, I thought it would only be fair that you would be able to give your say. Just as I did the other day, I allowed your request to be the first to say your piece because on the matter precisely of Lau, because Christopher Lloyd Lau is a very controversial figure right now, as we've seen, and he's associated with people who seem to be accompanying him wherever he goes. For example, I think one of his partners before, Mr. Leong, is now sent when he could not get the ombudsman. Mr. Leong is now his overall deputy ombudsman. And they were both together in previous positions, and now his other friend, Mr. Lo, is now running it's so hard to avoid all these facts. And, in law, you put together, sasama mo lahat yung mga facts na yan and put it on a tapestry like a whiteboard. Makikita mo yung mga commonalities, makikita mo yung timeline. And that's why I think we've been, at least in this part of this representation, even more than fair kay Secretary Duque. And so therefore, we want to make sure that he is not being grilled here, he's not ginigisa siya rito. The people want, as you say, malaman kung ano katotohanan, kung saan napunta ang pera, at kung talagang tama ang paggastos ng pera. Yun lang naman ang cross-examination natin dito sa mga testigo. Ang kulang lang ni Secretary Duque, pagtatanungin siya, pinapasa niya, parang siguro pagod na siya, pinapasa niya sa iba, and wala ng kumpiyansa pag pinapasa mo lahat dahil tumatagal yung investigation, dahil kabisado niya. But I'm not going to tax him on that because I also know Mr. Duque is a hardworking man, and I've not really charged him with anything. But I was really very, very upset with the so much money being put into this PSDBM. It's just like a dark room with dark people inside the room na talagang sila lang ang nagbibigay ng pera ng bayan na dapat mapunta sa ayuda, mapunta sa paglabas natin sa COVID. Pero nakita natin ngayon talagang napaka-liksing magbigay ng kontrata na hindi man lang titignan kung ano nangyayari, kung sino yung mga nabibid. Senator Lacson, please go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would just like to be clarified. Did Senator Go just ask Secretary Duque to resign when he told him to make the supreme sacrifice?
You better ask Senator Go that. Senator Go? Because that sounds like it. Because when I heard it, I thought that he was already sending a message that you already done so much and you're making a sacrifice, supreme sacrifice. You must make that, and so that life will go on. But life will not go on unless this is clarified. The mess is clarified. Yes, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, Mr. Chairman, can a senator do that to a secretary or department secretary? Ask him to resign?
There have been many surprises in my life, Mr. President. This is one of them again.
Legal decision, we passed a resolution. But can one single senator ask a department secretary to resign?
Well, that is the prerogative of any senator here as far as I'm concerned. But Senator Go is raising his hand. Senator Go?
Mr. Chair and Senator Ping, advice lang naman po yung akin.
Okay.
Mag-sakripisyo para, alam mo, naawa na rin ako kay Pangulong Duterte. Nabanggit ko na po kanina. Pinapasa na po niya. I'm sure importante po dito ay lumabas sila na clear po yung dahil karamihan dito nagtatrabaho lang po para sa ating bayan ng isasakripisyo. Bigyan po natin sila ng pagkakataon na lumabas po na malinis at meron naman po silang may pagmalaki sa kanilang mga pamilya. Maybe decision na po yun ni Secretary Duque pagdating ng panahon.
Thank you for the clarification. So it was just an advice coming from a senator.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Secretary Duque, did you take this as an advice or as a shot in the bow?
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I have been attending all these hearings both in the House and here in the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee with one goal in mind, and that is for me and the DOH to clear all of these COA observations and findings of deficiencies and submission eventually of our agency action plan on the recommendations. Yun lang naman po, we want to clear everything. So if the time comes when I need to resign, I will. I mean, there's no problem with me, Mr. Chairman. So what is important is we clear all of these findings of purported deficiencies, and we will address them squarely with all my DOH team. We've worked so hard to lead the fight against this pandemic for 18 months, and we have been relentless. Many of our workers have even died, some got sick, some had to be isolated. And so we are confronted with a very unique situation. This is a state of public health emergency. We cannot assume that we are operating under normal circumstances, because definitely we're far from a normal situation. And each one of us in the DOH has been so dedicated and committed, if not passionate about really uh, leading the way, helping the local government units, explaining to our people, explaining to everyone what the DOH knows about this evolving virus. Our doctors, our scientists, everyone has had a major contribution in our fight against this pandemic. And if it's not enough, the people will be the one to judge me. The people will judge everyone from the Department of Health, and and we are undeterred in service. We want to work. We want to get the vaccinations ramped up as much as we can, and I owe it to the Department of Health. All are my people in the DOH who have supported me in this fight against the pandemic. And we would like to, if I will need to leave, and I can leave, there's no problem with that. I just want to be cleared of all these COA findings. Yun lang naman po. At saka sana yung mabakunahan ang aabot po natin ang herd immunity, Mr. Chairman. Yun
Yes,
lamang po.
I accept that, and I appreciate that, and I respect that about you and many of the loyal Department of Health people. But as you say, you have been investigated by the lower house and by the upper house, and that is our duty as a separate branch of government, especially after an independent body like COA comes out with a complete committee report that cites many discrepancies. And all of us, including myself, have been part of that, and I never thought of itself as a victim. It's just really to make sure that the transparency aspect is there. And I'm sure you understand that, right? And I think you'll agree with me that the chair has been very, very open to all your answers. And of course, sometimes I will make a remark really just to help you to go direct to the point and answer. And I think the senators have given you a lot of leeway as well. And nobody has really insulted you or bashed you. But really, when it came to Christopher Lau, the object of this committee is to raise questions that needed to be answered. So the issue is not personal. The issue here is yung pera ba ng tao, binigay natin, binigay ng Kongreso sa gobyerno, yan ba nagagamit ng maayos, na chine-check ba yung maigi, at para sa ganoon, umabot tayo sa panahon na marami na tayong vaccine na mabibili, umabot tayo sa panahon na makakapag-ayuda tayo, umabot tayo sa panahon na makakapag-invest tayo muli sa infrastructure para magkatrabaho ang tao at makalabas tayo dito sa hirap ng pandemic. Ayoko mag-imbestiga in the middle of the pandemic, but that's the way it is. You're dealt the cards and you must make a decision. And that's the way it is. So I just want to assure everybody that I think all the senators can hold their head up high. That's why in the beginning, right away, I was kind of flabbergasted at the statement made by the president. And I don't want to go back there again. The words have been stated, and I'm sure it will be taken properly in its proper context. So I just want to ask any other senators if they want to ask questions pa. Meron ba bang questions? Yes, Senator Marcos.
Yes, thank you very much. Just by way of manifestation, sir, if the PhilHealth chairman, Geran, is still around.
Senator, I mean, just a moment. I just saw Senator Dillon raising his hand. I'm sure he will not talk during manifestation.
Yes.
Senator Dillon, yes.
Yes, I would like to raise a question to Mr. Lau, still in relation to the face mask purchases. Is Mr. Lau still around?
Mr. Lau.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am still around, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm referring to a company called Cosmic Technologies Incorporated, who was also a supplier of face masks. Do you know this company, Mr. Lau?
Cosmic.
They're in the list.
No, Mr. Chair, they're just, I think, one of the persons who participated in the process of procurement, Your Honor.
Okay. Did you examine the articles of incorporation of Cosmic Technology when
No,
they
Chair.
submitted
Only-
application?
No, Mr. Chair, we only rely on the submitted SEC registration. That's the only thing we relied on.
Yes.
It's the same
Did
thing.
you, if you exercised ordinary prudence and just a simple examination of the articles of incorporation and the business of this company, you will immediately know that Cosmic Technologies articles of incorporation will show that